Hello and welcome, Matt here from MrLeica.com. Today I've got a slightly different video for you. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know that I normally cover gear reviews, so camera reviews, lens reviews, things like that. And I could be blamed for helping you spend your money on camera equipment. So today I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to tell you not to spend all your money on camera equipment and how you could enjoy your money 100 times more by spending it slightly more wisely, still with the camera included, but a cheaper camera, and then spending it on other things to enjoy what I call a richer lifestyle. So following my recent video, 10 ways to save £1,000 so you can buy yourself a Leica camera, assuming we now have £1,000, I'm going to cover two scenarios. Scenario one, you spend £1,000 on a Leica camera and lens, and number two, you buy a cheaper camera. And before we jump into the detail, if you'd like to support this channel, the biggest thing you can do to help me out is smash the like button. And if you've not already subscribed, please subscribe so you're not to miss future videos. Thanks in advance. Let's get started. Option number one, we spend £1,000 on a nice Leica camera and lens combination. Now I know what a lot of you are saying, Leicas cost way more than £1,000, but let's just stick to £1,000 in this scenario. There are plenty of Leica camera and lens combinations you can buy for £1,000. Just look at some of the Leica R cameras or the Leica 3 cameras. So just to keep it simple, we'll stick to £1,000. So following the recent video, you made your sacrifices and you save your £1,000. And then you go to the shop and you buy your amazing Leica camera. You come home with your treasured possession. It's got the Leica badge on and your eyes light up, and it's like your life dream potentially has come true, and you finally get yourself a Leica camera. You then go to put your hands in your pockets to maybe get the bus money to get the bus home from going to the shops, and you have spent every penny on your Leica camera. This is a hypothetical, so bear with me. So you get home and now you've got your amazing camera and you just want to go and photograph things. But because you haven't got any money left, it's a bit like a lockdown situation. So I can relate to this from obviously all of us being in lockdown. You've got your really nice camera and then you just need to find things to photograph. So you just go around your local streets, you look around the house. I don't know, me personally, I was taking photos of my bikes because I had no models. I might be in the garden looking for a pretty flower to photograph. I might just be looking for anything I can find in the local neighbourhood to photograph to allow me to use my new shiny, sparkly Leica camera. That's option number one. If we then assume in simple terms the same situation is with you for 1, 2, 3 months, let's say you then need to save up to buy other things around the house, I don't know, new clothes or pay the bills, that kind of thing. So you've got no spare money now for 3 months. What will happen is you've got this amazing camera, and then unless you live somewhere really amazing, you're not going to fully utilise this camera that you've just bought. So you're probably not going to improve your photography skills. You're not going to make any lasting kind of memorable photographs unless, I don't know, you get really good at photographing nothing. Maybe you're really good at that. But personally, during lockdown, I was really struggling to make any. Would you like an ice cream? Excuse the ice cream van noise. That's what an English ice cream van looks like for those of you not in the UK. Where was I? So in sum, you've got a really capable camera, but you can't use it to its full capabilities because you're not going out and about with your camera. I'm sure many Leica photographers are guilty of this, maybe not as extreme in the picture that I'm painting, but it does happen where you see people have spent their money on their cameras and then they're not really using them to their full potential. Option number one. Option number two, we still have our £1,000 pot of money, which we painstakingly saved up over many months, however long it took to save up our money. This time around, I'm going to suggest you buy a cheaper camera. Now I can relate to this because I own cheap cameras as well as Leica cameras. So for example, let's take a real life situation and let's take my super cheap Minolta X300 camera. That camera and lens cost, I think, around £100. So we now have an SLR camera with the 45mm f2 lens in this situation. So we have a very, very sharp, highly capable lens on a lightweight SLR 35mm film body. We now have £900 left to spend, and this is now our opportunity to enjoy a richer lifestyle. So with the ever increasing film camera prices, let's just say for argument's sake you spent £200 on your camera, lens and a pack of film, so you're all set. So we now have £800 to go and enjoy ourselves basically. And so from my own experiences and looking back over old photos pre-lockdown this week, this is what triggered this video. Just looking through all my old photos from my various trips, so many memories. You see a face and you remember the memory, you remember where you were, what you were doing, maybe you were talking about, what music was on during that photo session, or depending on what type of photo it is, a lot of these are portraits. So my recommendation is spend the rest of your money on traveling with your camera to get the most out of your camera. That way you'll get to explore new countries, new cities, you'll get to experience new cultures, new people, you'll have the opportunity to make new friends. If you're doing, say, portrait photography or even potentially street photography where you're talking to people in the street, you may meet someone that then really connects with you and then they become a long-term contact. So I guess the question is, why is the camera the key tool in this whole situation? The camera for me is the gateway to the people, and also it provides me with free entertainment. What do I mean by this? Without a camera, I'm basically a nobody. With a camera, I now have the opportunity to approach complete strangers, in this case normally models. Would you like some free pictures in exchange for your time? And by doing that I meet lots of new people. It doesn't cost me any money and they hopefully enjoy the pictures, and I enjoy both the experience of meeting people in different countries and the resulting pictures. So that would be the case for portrait photography. What if you're a street photographer? If you're a street photographer, it still provides free entertainment. Or a landscape photographer, you'll visit your new city or new country, and if you're like me, you'll just walk around all day or run/walk around all day like I do in Poland, and take your camera and you just take photos as you go. The day is completely free because all you're doing is using your feet to walk around to photo the various places. You might spend a small amount of money on transport, and I'll come on to that in a second, and maybe a small amount of money on food, and I'll also come on to that. But generally speaking, it's free entertainment. Once you've paid for your transport to and from the location, everything else is more or less free, and the camera can give you so much enjoyment. I have so much to thank for photography. It really has changed my life, and it continues to change my life, with me now talking to you guys on YouTube, something I never thought I'd do in a million years. So if we now look at some real case studies, I often travel to Poland. I can travel to Poland from the UK for around 5 days with flights, accommodation and food included. It cost me £250, maybe less. So that means if I had £750 to spend, I could go for 3 5-day trips to Poland, all within our £1,000 budget, and still probably have some money left over to spend. So I know you're thinking, how is that physically possible? Well, all I spend my money on is transport to and from the airport, flight to the other country, public transport when I get to the other country, Airbnb or hostel or booking.com, cheap accommodation, and then groceries. And then my entertainment is free for 5 days. I'll be shooting models, sometimes as many as 6 a day when I used to be really busy and kind of really pack them in. I used to do 2 hours, so 8 till 10, 10 till 12, 12 till 2, 2 till 4, 4 till 6, 6 till 8. So the most I used to do was 6 girls in a day taking photos. It's free entertainment. Normally the hotels give you free tea and coffee, so the girls arrive, you use your camera, you have an enjoyable day by making photos with these people, and it doesn't cost you a penny for the whole day. It's like amazing. If I was doing a day with, say, no models, for example, last Christmas Day, obviously Christmas Day, most normal people want to be with their families. I was in Poland doing photo shoots last Christmas. So on Christmas Day, I knew I wouldn't have a model, so I went running very early in the morning with a pack and like an ultra runner, like long distance running. And I took my cameras and things with me and just ran around Gdansk, Gdynia, Sopot, ran around those cities and took my cameras with me and just basically enjoyed my day taking pictures, and it didn't cost me a single penny. If I then wanted to do a slower paced version, I could just walk around a city like maybe a more normal person. Obviously, I guess it takes some willpower. You could walk out the front of your hotel and go straight to the nearest restaurant and spend £50 on breakfast, take a few photos, walk to a nice restaurant, spend £50 on lunch, walk around a bit, see some nice restaurants, spend £100 in the evening on, I don't know, some fancy steak and wine and all those kind of things. So you could easily spend lots of money, but what I'm saying is it's very easy not to spend hardly any money, which is the way I do it, and I still get a huge amount of enjoyment. I would argue potentially more enjoyable than some people's holidays that cost 10 times more, because I'm meeting all these very beautiful girls in my situation, and that's obviously quite enjoyable if you like that kind of thing, and I do like that kind of thing, hence I'm a portrait photographer. And then in terms of cameras, what camera would I recommend for less than £200? I probably wouldn't recommend a rangefinder camera, despite being a rangefinder boy, because they're much less versatile than a SLR camera. And also SLR cameras tend to be cheaper than rangefinder cameras. We're talking about film cameras mostly, but obviously you can relate this to getting a cheap mirrorless camera, but I have less experience with cheap digital cameras. So I'll cover film cameras in this example. So I'd recommend something like the Nikon FG-20, amazing camera, very affordable, super compact for travel, and just brilliant all-rounder, and a cheap alternative to something like Nikon FM, Nikon FE, those type of cameras. Sometimes you can get those cameras for less than £200, hence I'm mentioning them, but often the price might be more than £200. Other cheap cameras, as already mentioned, the Minolta X300 that I own, another fantastic camera for travel, similar size to the Nikon FG-20. And my third example would probably be the Nikon F80, another absolute bargain camera, and would probably suit those of you that like autofocus and full auto type film cameras. It's like a cheap version of a Nikon F100, if you know what those are. And they seem to be really popular in recent years. So those are some cheap cameras which I recommend and I use myself. And then to finish, my 5 top tips for cheaper ways to travel. Number 1, pick a cheap city in a cheap country. To find cheap accommodation, you're probably better looking at cheaper cities in more affordable countries. So for me, again, Poland, Ukraine, Hungary, those are countries I like to visit because I like the look of the people in those countries, and also they're affordable, so it's kind of win-win for me. If we take Europe as an example, if you go to Western Europe rather than Eastern Europe, in Western Europe you'll probably be paying a lot more for your hotel costs and more for your food costs and potentially flight costs. Number 2, pick a low-cost airline flying to these countries, so your flight costs are quite affordable. I normally try and pay less than £100 return flying to these countries. Number 3, pick yourself some affordable accommodation. I would book your accommodation in advance, and I'd look at hostels, Airbnb, Booking.com. Hostels are particularly cheap, but it depends if you're happy sharing a room with other people or you prefer a private room. If you want to do portrait photography and you're trying to do what I do, you'd be better to spend a little bit more money and get your own apartment, which can still be very affordable if you do it for multiple days. And that way you use your apartment as your studio. So you have a free studio. So when I'm shooting in Poland, Hungary in the winter months, I need somewhere indoor because normally it's quite cold outside Poland in the winter. It's colder than the UK in the winter. Number 4, cook your own food. So I tend to stay in accommodation where they have your own cooking facilities. So then I just buy food from the local supermarket and cook my own food. That way it's very healthy and it's also affordable. And then number 5, use your cheap camera as your free entertainment. You can be walking around all day taking photos. You can be walking/running around all day taking photos. You could do landscape photography, you could do street photography, you could do portraiture like myself and meet people. TF shoots, as they call it, which is basically time for print, they used to call it. So the girls will give me their time for free and I'll give them my images to them for free. So no one spends any money and we all generally have a really great time. So that's my proven method in terms of how I travel very cheaply, as frequently as I can, pre-lockdown, and with my camera, and make really amazing lasting memories. I'm really looking forward to travelling again once the lockdowns ease. And I think the biggest take-home message which I'm trying to share with you guys from learning myself, looking back at the photos which I was looking at from the trips that I've done over the years in Poland and Hungary and Ukraine and all the different places, it didn't matter in the slightest whether I was using a £2,000 Leica M6 or a £50 Minolta X300. I even had the situation last year where I was using the X300 instead of Leica cameras, and I was using the Nikon F80 instead of Leica cameras on 2 separate trips. And you're probably saying to me, why didn't you use a nice Leica camera? Why did you use this crappy budget camera instead if you had a Leica camera with you? I was using the cheap SLR cameras because they were better tools for the job of taking portraits in that situation. I tried to use rangefinder cameras made by Leica. I tried to use rangefinder cameras made by Voigtlander. I had these with me because I tend to take multiple small cameras with me to test cameras and lenses to then share with you guys. But the cheap SLR cameras gave me my best results, which is pretty ridiculous. I did actually write a blog post on this particular trip and I can link that in the description below. So check that out. It will show you example photos with Leica, example photos with Voigtlander, and example photos with a cheap SLR camera. And you can decide for yourself which photos you like the most, and also see how many photos I took with each setup. I think that gives you a great idea of which cameras are best on the trip. If you shot 5 rolls with one camera and 10 photos with another camera, the camera that shot the 5 rolls was the best camera for the job in that situation. And again, for any of you new to the channel, if you don't know, I've been blogging since 2013, and I used to document all my trips pre-YouTube on the blog itself. So there's full write-ups of maybe 20 model trips with all the gear detailed out, and then example photos and full write-ups of what I did and what day. You might find it useful if you find this video inspiring and you want to now start doing something similar. So in summary, I think what I'm trying to say is there's no point having an amazing Leica camera sitting on your shelf, not being utilised, when you could spend the same amount of money and go to new, interesting, exciting, hopefully photogenic places and create lasting memories in those places with any camera. It just needs to be anything that can capture a picture. I think if you're shooting film especially, photos look amazing on film regardless of what camera you use, so there really is no need to shoot with a £2,000 film camera when you can use a £200 film camera. That's it for this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and as always, a massive thank you to my patrons. See you in the next video. Bye.